Hey, how you doing? I've been thinking about doing another talking video. Um, Actually, I gave it a couple of tries, and I'm really not sure if I wanted to publish, what I recorded. Um, Because I guess I've been thinking about all the things that have been going on. Challenging time, it's very troubling, and I'm not. It's hard for me to really know what to say. I mean, it's actually been a lot easier to just, like I focus a lot on with lately with the channel. I try to do some music stuff, trying to do some covers and maybe an original here and there, and it's kind of easier just to do that. But then, rather than to come on and try to talk about like I usually come on and I talk, but what's everybody talking about? Everybody is talking about this, the coronavirus and whatever, all that, and you know, yeah, it's troubling. It's whatever it is. I mean, I know some people have tried to say that it's overblown, hysteria, whatever, and maybe it is, maybe to some extent that could be true, but it does seem to be real. It does seem, I mean, no matter how you look at it, I mean, for the most part, I mean, there seems to be agreement that there is something out there that is deadly, that's dangerous, so I guess you have to take the necessary precautions. Now, what else can I say? Well, I know that it was, I will say that it kind of reminds me a lot of, I mean, to some extent, what after 9/11, I mean, I think after, when 9/11 occurred, it was really, it was kind of like an unprecedented thing that kind of happened, an attack, in the United States, like something that we just weren't really, weren't prepared for it, and had no idea. But then that thing happened, and of course, there was all the, and of course it was very, very unusual, like when you looked at the whole official story that they gave. But whatever it was definitely, it was another fearful, terrible experience that, for me, actually, I was really kind of messed up for a long time. It took me, I just kind of felt like we were going to get attacked like every day or something. I didn't, but and I guess like there was, well, I know some people talk in terms of there's people, there are the conspiracy people, whatever, and they think of things, and I've heard of this kind of theory called problem reaction solution. So there's a problem, then whatever, the attacks, whatever, and there's a reaction, of course, to fear, and then a solution. And I guess with that case, I mean, they had the whole war on terror, and you had the surveillance and Patriot Act, and all these things. So somebody come up with all these things. Was it kind of like manufactured or something? No, I don't even want to get into that now. But anyway, we're in the middle of this crises right now, and I guess over time, maybe only after a long time, will I be able to make a better assessment as to what it all means. But yeah, it could be like one of those things. I know like they have this the theory about the bats, whatever, that there were these viruses in bats. But then believe me, I mean, I guess people probably know that there are people that aren't really buying that theory, and they have their other theories about it. But I don't even want to get into it, because I don't really know. I know what they say officially, and I know that I guess the main thing right now is to just trying to stay safe and trying to stay healthy and trying to get beyond it. And then of course there's all this other stuff that all the economic damage that occurs, and then what will be the solution to this, when what'll how will it affect our lives, and again, was it, I don't know, it's very confusing, and again, I think I mentioned in my videos, I kind of talked about how the information kind of it comes down, kind of like the stuff that we're fed, that comes into the media, that comes in to the news channels, whatever, the news media sources, whatever, and they have like they take the stories and they run their stories. They have their interpretation of what it is. I always, of course, I always say, where do these stories come from? What is it? But then I look at an event like this and I say, this maybe it's just this thing that just kind of came, maybe they didn't, it happened, like the virus got out, and then, okay, we got it. This is the story, of course, obviously. Or was it something, again, like, I don't like to say this, but manufactured? I don't really know. I don't know really what the whole story is behind it, and perhaps I will never know, and maybe nobody will ever know. And I mean, maybe people will claim to say that they know it. That's what some people do. They like to claim to be authorities on things, and maybe they are. Maybe maybe they nail it sometimes. But me, no. I mean, I'm just trying to be honest, and I just try to look at things and try to assess situations. Try to look at it kind of intuitively and try to get a sense of it. But yeah, it's troubling, and I think I've always kind of have this consciousness of the kind of like the dystopian literature. I guess I think of like George Orwell, 1984, or Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. So I'm always kind of conscious of these things and how like these things actually kind of seem to be evident in the real world that we live in. You kind of see like some of these themes, some of these occurrences. So I don't know, like that part of it is troubling. But anyway, like really what we have here. And again, also I have to say, I also see this kind of conflict that kind of the really, one of the things I say how like the information kind of comes in, and like the different media sources kind of take it and they have their interpretation and everything. And we have this major, I've said that there's this big duality that you have. And I guess, if you're just like looking at the United States, you have like the Trump administration, and then you have this thing that's kind of been going on with the people who are like kind of very much in favor of Trump, whatever, they're big supporters, and then you have like these people who just they're out to get him, like they just really like they just despise him, and he's like the worst thing ever in the world. But there's like just this passion that kind of like really goes beyond between these two sides, and there are different depending on what media source you look at. You have like more like mainstream type stuff, like I guess the Fox News, the MSNBCs and all that. Then I guess you have all the other angles on it, the social media and YouTube and all these different sources that analyze the thing. But to a large extent, it's kind of like people kind of like go into these two different camps, and they kind of like they're kind of like slinging mud at each other and taking like they have totally different interpretations of reality, and it just becomes like very political, and it's really almost gotten to the point where I think science is really science has become very political. It's almost like there's all these people talk about the science of different things, but how many of us are really science? I mean, I know some people are scientists and they do whatever the research that they do in the scientific area that they specialize in, and they would, of course, they would be authorities in whatever that is, what they're working with. But like there's so many different facets of science, and then there's just so many like just regular working people that they don't do science for a living, but so they basically they read articles, they see things on the internet, or they see things on television, and they take these things and they adopt it. They adopt the whole mindset as to what it is. So of course, you have the whole thing with the climate change and all that, and now of course you have this whole thing with this virus, and what does what does that all mean, and then the idea of vaccines, and then there's people talking about 5G and all these things that are out there, and you could look into all these different things and try to figure out what's real and what's not real, and you could just wind up just kind of going crazy, just trying to sort it all out. But anyway, here we are. And we're dealing with this situation. United States hit very, very hard. Like it's really just, I mean, it just blew up like ridiculously. And of course, like some other, European countries, big European countries, and Iran supposedly. But it seems like there's a whole bunch of other smaller countries that didn't get really hit that hard. I mean, I don't know really if the statistics are completely correct. It seems that Asian, although it came from China, and I don't really know what, there's so much confusion and debate about what the information you get from China. And actually, I was just so happens that I was in China, but I don't really know much about China. I was only there for a couple of days, so I don't really know that much about it. But I've known some Asian people, and actually I did spend a lot of time in South Korea, so I did get a sense, and really truly, I can definitely see that South Korean people, and I think this kind of goes along with a lot of East Asian cultures that they have like a different kind of way of, different from the way life is in America or in Western cultures. It's a different kind of mindset. They have a lot of discipline, and when they have their society, there seems to be a lot of seriousness, and they seem to be like, very much very selective or picky about how they want to have their society, their system run, that can be run efficiently and can probably deal with this kinds of emergency crises, whatever. And again, unless like we're getting the wrong statistics, but that's just kind of like what I've seen, what I've observed. So, but yeah, I'm not really sure what to say. I just hope that that there can be a recovery from this, and it's I mean, I guess maybe we have to find we'll have to find a way to live afterward, and maybe find other things in life. How maybe we could learn something from all this. I'm not really sure what to say. But I would definitely say to try to stay safe, follow whatever these rules are, and I would say that probably trying to keep yourself healthy, having a good immune system is probably a good idea. And I mean, I guess if you haven't been doing that up to this point, maybe it's kind of hard to change like overnight. But I know that I've actually tried to do that. I mean, it's mostly like nutritional things. I think you just go on the internet and just search, how to maintain a strong immune system, or how to build a strong immune system. Just kind of search, and I guess a lot of it, they'll tell you like things in your diet, different types of foods that you can eat, and I guess the exercise and the getting the rest, trying to avoid stress. Although stress is something that it's very hard for, when you're in the working world and you're dealing with people and you're dealing with stuff. There's people who are just kind of bad people that you deal with that'll kind of mess with you and create stress, and so it's tough to totally avoid stress. But I guess you try to deal with it. You try to get a job that you love, whatever. You try to find something that's really good for you, makes you happy every day. So I would definitely, advise that, to try to find a way to stay healthy, because who knows, what if you're going to get hit with this thing, or what type of drug they're going to tell you that'll, clear you from this thing. Who the hell knows? But anyway, yeah, I just figured I'd check back for a while. As we're dealing with this pandemic, I figured I have to come here and talk a little bit. But anyway, thanks for tuning in, and stay safe and stay healthy, and hang in there, and I'll see you next time.